The vote was unanimous. 17 species, 17 hands raised in agreement. War against humanity would begin within the week. Commander Grath of the Dravon Empire watched the holographic display with satisfaction. For 40 years, the humans had played their little diplomatic games, speaking soft words while refusing to bow to superior powers. The galaxy had rules, hierarchies that every species understood. The strong commanded, the weak obeyed. Yet these humans, these strange bipeds from a backwater system, insisted on negotiating as equals. It was an insult the Dravon could no longer tolerate. "The target is their mining colony on Titan," Grath announced to his fleet commanders. "Intelligence reports minimal defenses. 300 civilian workers, perhaps 20 security personnel. We strike hard, we strike fast, and we send a message that the coalition will not be mocked." His second-in-command, a scarred veteran named Drask, shifted his weight. "Commander, what of the human ambassador? She continues to request dialogue." Grath's lips pulled back, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "Ambassador Foster can watch her colony burn. Perhaps then she will understand how the galaxy truly works." On the Coalition station orbiting neutral space, Rachel Foster read the intelligence report for the third time. Her hands did not shake, though they should have. Titan Station housed her brother's family. Her niece had just turned 7. "They're really going to do it," her aide whispered. "After everything we've done to avoid this." Rachel looked up from the datapad. Her face showed nothing, the same diplomatic mask she had worn for 15 years. "Contact Fleet Command. Use Protocol Winter." The aide's face went pale. "Ma'am, that protocol has been dormant since first contact. Are you certain?" "I'm certain." Rachel stood, smoothing her suit. "Tell them the restraints are lifted. Tell them it's time to stop pretending." The aide hurried away. Rachel walked to the observation window, staring at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Dravon were preparing their attack. They had studied human defensive capabilities for years, watched the slow cargo ships and minimal patrol craft. They believed they understood humanity's limits. They had no idea what was coming. Titan Station floated in Saturn's orbit, a cluster of mining platforms and habitation modules. Security Chief Henry Watts was finishing his shift rotation when the proximity alarm screamed. His coffee went flying as he lunged for the console. Multiple contacts incoming. Dravon signatures, at least 30 capital ships. The station manager's voice crackled over the intercom. "This is not a drill. All personnel to evacuation pods. Security teams, delay them as long as you can." Henry's team assembled in the armory. 12 men and women, grabbing weapons designed for mining accidents and drunk miners, not military assault. They looked at him with fear in their eyes. "Listen up," Henry said quietly. "Fleet Command received the signal. They're coming. We just need to buy time." "With mining lasers?" someone asked. "Against Dravon warships?" Henry pulled his weapon, checking the charge. "We do what humans have always done. We make them bleed for every inch." The Dravon ships emerged from jump space in perfect formation. Grath watched the human colony grow larger on his screens. Their defensive platforms were powering up, pathetic particle cannons that could barely scratch Dravon armor. "Begin bombardment," he ordered. "Avoid complete destruction. We want survivors to spread word of this defeat." The first salvo tore through Titan's outer modules. Atmosphere vented into space in frozen clouds. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, but 3 modules were already lost. 15 dead in the opening seconds. Henry's team fired from defensive positions, their weapons sparking uselessly against Dravon hull plating. Then the boarding pods launched, magnetic clamps biting into the station's hull. "Here they come," Henry shouted. The bulkhead exploded inward. Dravon warriors poured through, each one nearly 8 feet tall, covered in natural armor plating. They moved with the confidence of a species that had conquered 40 worlds. Henry's team fought like cornered animals. They used the tight corridors, set traps, collapsed sections behind them. Every human that fell took a Dravon with them. It wasn't military precision. It was desperation and rage. Grath frowned at the casualty reports. His warriors were winning, but slower than expected. The humans fought with a ferocity that seemed irrational. They didn't retreat to save themselves. They stayed and fought until killed. "Sir, we're detecting new contacts at the system's edge," his sensor officer reported. "Multiple human vessels entering detection range." "How many?" Grath asked. The officer's voice went quiet. "Updating count, sir. 20. No, 40. Still updating." "How is that possible? Human fleet registers show only a dozen patrol vessels in this sector." "Sir, these aren't patrol vessels. They're huge, and they're moving fast." Grath pulled up the tactical display. His blood went cold. The contacts weren't appearing on sensors gradually. They had been there all along, hidden somehow, and now they were dropping stealth protocols. Over 100 warships. Real warships, not the cargo haulers with bolted-on guns that humans usually fielded. These were sleek, predatory, covered in weapons that his computer was struggling to classify. "Fleet Admiral Wright to Dravon Forces," a human voice cut through every channel. "You have 30 seconds to cease fire and withdraw. This is your only warning." Grath's pride overcame his sudden fear. "We do not run from humans. All ships engage the new contacts." The human admiral's response was soft, almost sad. "We tried to do this the polite way." The human fleet opened fire, and Grath learned what real warfare looked like. Blood floated in zero gravity, turning the corridor into a crimson fog. Henry Watts fired his last power cell into the Dravon warrior's chest plate, watching it crack under repeated impacts. The alien fell, and Henry grabbed its weapon, something heavy and unfamiliar. His earpiece crackled. "All security teams, human fleet has arrived. Hold your positions and mark friendly locations." Around him, the sounds of battle had changed. The deep rumble of Dravon boarding operations had been replaced by something else entirely. Explosions, screams, the high-pitched whine of weapons Henry had never heard before. Fleet Admiral David Wright stood in the command center of the battleship Relentless, watching tactical displays that showed the Dravon fleet scrambling to respond. They had expected a fight against cargo escorts. They got something very different. "All vessels execute pattern Stalingrad," Wright ordered. "No survivors, no retreat." His executive officer, a woman named Commander Patricia Hall, glanced at him. "Sir, the coalition is monitoring this engagement. If we're too brutal, the diplomatic fallout will be severe." Wright's eyes never left the display. "Commander, they attacked civilians. They boarded a mining station and killed people whose only crime was digging rocks out of ice. The time for diplomacy ended when they made that choice." The human fleet split into attack groups, each one moving with practiced coordination. Dravon commanders tried to form defensive formations, but the humans weren't following any tactical doctrine they recognized. Ships would charge forward, seemingly suicidal, then break away at impossible angles. Weapons fire came from unexpected directions. Electronic warfare blinded Dravon sensors while human missiles slipped through the chaos. Grath watched his flagship's shields collapse under sustained fire. "Return fire. Target their command ship." But which one was the command ship? The human fleet had no obvious flagship, no vessel broadcasting command signals. Every ship fought independently, yet somehow they moved like a single organism. "Sir, we've lost the destroyer Squadron 7. They're requesting assistance." "Send Squadron 3 to support them." "Squadron 3 is already engaged. Sir, we're losing cohesion." Grath's claws dug into his command chair. This wasn't possible. The Dravon Empire had conquered worlds. They had fought wars across multiple star systems. Yet these humans, these supposed peaceful merchants, were tearing his fleet apart. A human fighter squadron streaked past his view screen, so close he could see the pilots inside. They weren't flying in tight formations like proper military craft. They moved like predators hunting prey, breaking away and rejoining in patterns that seemed random but were devastatingly effective. Lieutenant Sophie Grant rolled her fighter inverted, dodging plasma fire that should have vaporized her. Her wingman, a pilot called Danny, followed her move perfectly without needing orders. "Dragon Squadron, we've got a heavy cruiser trying to reach Titan," Sophie transmitted. "Let's show them why Earth invented the word kamikaze." "You know that reference is really inappropriate," Danny replied, even as he armed his entire missile loadout. "Probably, but it's accurate." They dove toward the Dravon cruiser, 12 fighters against a ship designed to destroy entire fleets. The cruiser's point defense systems opened up, filling space with deadly energy. 2 human fighters exploded. The rest kept coming. At the last moment, they scattered, releasing their missiles in a pattern that overwhelmed the cruiser's defenses. Explosions rippled across its hull. Then Sophie's squadron looped back, firing railguns at the exposed sections. "This is for Titan," Sophie whispered. The cruiser broke in half, atmosphere venting, in brilliant flashes of freezing air. On Titan Station, Henry and the surviving security teams heard the Dravon retreat. The aliens who had been pressing forward minutes ago were now pulling back to their boarding pods, abandoning their dead. "They're running," someone said in disbelief. Henry limped to a viewport and looked out at the battle. Human ships danced through the Dravon fleet like sharks through a school of fish. Every few seconds, another Dravon vessel went dark, spinning away as debris. "We're not the weak ones," Henry said softly. "We never were." The battle lasted 3 hours and 47 minutes. When it ended, the Dravon fleet no longer existed. 31 capital ships destroyed, 43 support vessels destroyed, 18,000 Dravon warriors dead in the cold of space. Human casualties, 321, most of them civilians on Titan Station who died in the initial attack. Admiral Wright watched the last Dravon escape pod limp away toward a coalition observation vessel. He had ordered it spared deliberately. Someone needed to report what happened here. "Open a channel to Ambassador Foster," Wright said. Rachel's face appeared on the screen. She looked older than she had that morning. "Admiral, the station is secure. We're sending medical teams and repair crews. Ma'am, they're going to ask questions. The coalition is going to demand explanations for our fleet, our weapons, our capabilities." Rachel nodded slowly. "I know, 40 years of careful diplomacy, gone in an afternoon. Was it worth it?" She looked at something off-screen, probably casualty reports. "My brother survived. His daughter survived. 300 people didn't. Ask me in a year if it was worth it." Wright understood. "What do I tell the fleet?" "Tell them to stay ready. The Dravon won't accept this defeat. Their pride won't allow it. This was just the first battle." The channel closed. Wright turned to his crew, seeing the mixture of triumph and horror on their faces. They had trained for decades for a war that was never supposed to happen. Now it had, and they had won so completely that the galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. "All ships maintain battle readiness," Wright ordered. "Get our people off Titan Station and prepare for the next phase. They came looking for a fight. We're going to make sure they never forget what they found." The recording played on every coalition world simultaneously. 14 minutes of battle footage from Titan Station, unedited and brutal. Species across the galaxy watched human ships move in ways that defied their understanding of space combat. They watched the legendary Dravon fleet, conquerors of 40 worlds, torn apart like paper. The council chamber on Coalition Prime fell silent when the recording ended. "This is not possible," First Speaker Tauren said finally. The insected diplomat's translator struggled with the emotion in her voice. Our intelligence showed humanity possessed minimal military capability, cargo vessels with basic armaments, defense platforms around their home world. Nothing like this. Ambassador Rachel Foster stood at the speaker's podium, her face carefully neutral. You saw what you were allowed to see. The chamber erupted in angry chittering, roars, and synthesized protests. Talron's staff slammed against the floor, calling for order. Explain yourself, Ambassador. Have you been deceiving this council for 40 years? No, Rachel said simply. We showed you exactly what we wanted to show. You assumed that was all we had. Your mistake, not ours. A Dravon representative, newly appointed after Grath's death, rose from his seat. Your species has violated dozens of coalition treaties by hiding military assets. This deception will not stand. Rachel turned to face him. Really? Which treaty requires members to disclose all military capabilities? Please cite the specific article. I'll wait. The Dravon's mouth worked silently. No such treaty existed. The coalition valued transparency, encouraged it, but never mandated it. What my colleague means, Talron intervened, is that your deception has destabilized galactic peace. The Dravon believed humanity to be weak. This misunderstanding led to war. The Dravon attacked a civilian mining station, Rachel replied coldly. Whether they thought we were weak or strong is irrelevant. They chose violence. They learned the consequences. Dr. Alan Park waited outside the council chamber, reviewing his presentation for the third time. As humanity's chief xenopsychologist, his job was to help other species understand human culture. Today, that job had become infinitely more complicated. An aide found him. Doctor, they're ready for you. Alan entered the chamber, feeling hundreds of alien eyes focus on him. He'd given lectures before, but never like this. Never with the weight of an entire species' reputation hanging on his words. Members of the council, he began, you asked why humanity hid its true nature. The answer is simple. We were afraid of you. Confused murmurs rippled through the chamber. Not afraid you would attack us, Alan continued. Afraid of what you would think if you knew what we really are. When we achieved faster-than-light travel and encountered the coalition, we found something miraculous. Hundreds of species living in relative peace. Trade, diplomacy, cooperation. It was everything we dreamed of. He pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's surface. This is our world. We call it a garden planet, but that's generous. 70% water, most of it containing things that want to eat us. Land masses filled with predators, diseases, natural disasters. The Dravon call their homeworld harsh. They evolved under one sun, one ecosystem, one set of challenges. The hologram shifted, showing different human populations. We evolved on every continent, in every climate. Desert, jungle, Arctic, mountains, coastline. We developed hundreds of cultures, thousands of languages, and we spent 10,000 years fighting each other. This proves our point, the Dravon representative interrupted. Humans are violent by nature. Yes, Alan agreed quietly. We are. But here's what you don't understand. Every species you've encountered fights to conquer, to dominate, to survive. Humans fight because we're good at it. We practiced warfare against opponents who thought exactly like us, who knew all our tricks, who adapted to our strategies in real time. We invented tactics to defeat enemies who had our same biology, our same intelligence, our same desperation. He let that sink in. The Dravon fight in formations that have worked for 1,000 years. Why change what works? But humans fight in 100 different styles because we had to. The tactics that worked in our forests failed in our deserts. The strategies that won in our mountains lost at our coasts. We evolved warfare itself. Talron leaned forward. You're saying your species is inherently superior at combat. No, Alan said. I'm saying we've had more practice. The Dravon encountered space flight after unifying their world. Most species do. Humans reached the stars while still divided into competing nations. We built weapons capable of destroying our entire planet, not because we were exploring space, but because we were fighting each other. The hologram changed again, showing archived footage of human conflicts. Soldiers in trenches, aircraft carriers, nuclear explosions. The aliens in the chamber watched in horrified fascination. We developed combined arms doctrine, total war, guerrilla tactics, cyber warfare, psychological operations, and 1,000 other military concepts not because we're evil, but because we needed them to survive each other. When we reached the stars and found you, we saw a chance to be something better, to use our nature for protection instead of conquest. So you hid, Talron said. Pretended to be peaceful merchants, while maintaining a military that could challenge the entire coalition. We are peaceful, Rachel spoke up from her seat. We chose peace. That's different from being forced into it by weakness. Every human in our fleet would rather be home with their families. Every weapon we built, we hoped we'd never use. But when the Dravon attacked civilians, our choice was made. Alan closed his presentation. You asked why we hid our true capabilities, because we wanted you to see us as friends first. We wanted diplomacy to work because we believed in it, not because we had no other option. The Dravon made that impossible. Now the galaxy knows what humanity really is. The question becomes, what happens next? Supreme Commander Vornath watched the battle reports with mounting rage. The Dravon had ruled their sector of space for 3 centuries, feared and respected throughout the galaxy. Now that reputation was crumbling because of one humiliating defeat. It was a fluke, his war council argued. They caught Commander Grath unprepared. We mobilize the Grand Armada, we crush their home world, and we restore our honor. Vornath's claws drummed against his throne. The Grand Armada represented 40% of all Dravon military power. 2,000 ships, battle-tested crews, enough firepower to sterilize a planet. Against the human home world, with its supposed defensive platforms and hidden fleet, the Grand Armada would be unstoppable. Prepare the fleet, he commanded. We leave for Earth within the cycle. 3 days later, the largest military force ever assembled by the Dravon Empire emerged from jump space at the edge of Earth's solar system. Vornath expected panic, desperate transmissions, perhaps hasty evacuations. Instead, he received a simple text message. Welcome to Sol. Please proceed to Mars orbit for formal discussions. Fleet Admiral Wright is expecting you. The audacity stunned him. They weren't begging for mercy or scrambling to defend themselves. They were inviting him to a meeting like this was a diplomatic visit. Take us to Mars, Vornath ordered. Let's see this Admiral Wright before we reduce his world to ash. Admiral Wright stood in the command center of the battleship Relentless, now positioned in high Mars orbit. Around him, tactical displays showed the Dravon fleet approaching in parade formation, confident and powerful. Status of second and third fleets, Wright asked calmly. In position, sir, Commander Hall reported. Hidden behind Mars and its moons, just like First Fleet was hidden at Titan. The Dravon sensors still can't penetrate our stealth systems. And the special packages? Hall smiled grimly, deployed and waiting. The Dravon Grand Armada slowed as it entered Mars orbit, ships arranging themselves in an impressive display of military might. Vornath had fought dozens of battles, led campaigns across multiple systems. Nothing in his experience prepared him for what happened next. Admiral Wright's message came through on all channels, voice only. Supreme Commander Vornath, you've brought an impressive fleet to my system. I want you to understand something before this goes any further. Earth has 10,000 years of recorded military history. Thousands of wars, millions of battles, countless innovations in the art of killing. What you saw at Titan was us being gentle. We disabled ships, allowed survivors to escape. We showed restraint. Vornath laughed, the sound harsh and mocking. You destroyed an entire fleet. You call that restraint? Yes, Wright replied simply. Because we let some of you live. This time I want to show you what happens when we don't. The space around the Dravon fleet suddenly came alive. Objects that had appeared to be debris, asteroid fragments, or random space junk revealed themselves as weapons platforms. Thousands of them, seated throughout the orbital space, each one bristling with armaments. Kinetic kill vehicles, Wright's voice continued, almost conversational. Simple concept, really. Accelerate a solid object to a significant fraction of light speed and point it at your target. No explosives needed, pure kinetic energy. We learned this technique from asteroids that impacted our world millions of years ago. The first wave of kinetic strikes hit before the Dravon could react. Ships designed to withstand energy weapons and explosives simply crumpled under the impact of tungsten rods traveling at relativistic speeds. Shields meant nothing. Armor meant nothing. Physics was the ultimate weapon. Nanite swarms, Wright said as the second wave deployed. Self-replicating machines smaller than your eyes can see. They eat through hull plating, circuitry, life support systems. We developed them for mining, but they're quite effective at disassembly. Dravon ships began sending distress signals as invisible clouds consumed their vessels from the inside out. Crews abandoned ships, only to find their escape pods targeted by automated defense systems. Quantum-entangled munitions, Wright continued. These are new. We're still not sure how they work honestly. Something about probability fields and collapsed wave functions. But they're very good at making ships simply stop existing. Several Dravon vessels vanished from sensors entirely, not destroyed or disabled, just gone. Vornath's flagship shuddered under repeated impacts. His shields were failing, his weapons barely making a dent in the human defenses. Around him, the Grand Armada was dying. How, Vornath demanded, how do you possess such weapons? Because we spent centuries developing them to use against each other, Wright replied. Every human nation, every human culture, all trying to build something that would give them an edge. We have weapons designed by pacifists trying to prevent war and weapons designed by warmongers trying to win it. We have weapons we're legally forbidden from using on Earth because they're too dangerous. And we have weapons we only half understand ourselves. The tactical display showed human fleet elements emerging from behind Mars, hundreds of ships that had been hiding in plain sight. But now Vornath could see they weren't even needed. The automated defenses were handling his entire armada. I'm going to offer you a choice, Wright said. One chance because despite what you think, we don't enjoy this. Order your ships to stand down, accept immediate surrender, and I'll call off the attack. Your crews will be treated according to coalition prisoner protocols. Or you can keep fighting, and I'll show you what we developed during our world wars, when humans fought humans and morality became negotiable. Vornath looked at his casualty reports. 600 ships already lost. His finest warriors dying by the thousands, all within 30 minutes of engagement. What are you? He whispered. We're what happens when evolution puts intelligence on a death world and lets it develop for a few million years, Wright answered. We're the species that looked at our own extinction 100 times and said, not today. We're the children of Earth, Commander, and Earth teaches very hard lessons. The surrender came in fragments. First, a handful of Dravon ships powered down their weapons and shields. Then whole squadrons followed. Within an hour, the Grand Armada existed only in name, its crews evacuating to designated coordinates where human vessels waited to take them prisoner. Vornath watched from his damaged flagship as his warriors abandoned their posts. 3 centuries of Dravon dominance ended in less than a day. Supreme Commander, his communications officer said quietly, Admiral Wright is transmitting something to every coalition world. It's the full battle data from this engagement. Vornath closed his eyes. Not just defeat, but humiliation broadcast across the galaxy. Every species would see how thoroughly humanity had dismantled the Dravon war machine. Lieutenant Sophie Grant landed her fighter in the Relentless's hangar bay, adrenaline still pumping through her system. Her squadron had barely participated in the battle. The automated systems had done most of the work, which somehow felt worse than actual combat. "Feels wrong," Danny said, pulling off his helmet. "We prepared for a fight and instead it was just target practice." Sophie understood. They had trained for years, expecting to face worthy opponents in desperate struggles. Instead, the Dravon had been outclassed so completely that it felt less like warfare and more like an execution. "Admiral wants pilots in the briefing room," someone announced. The briefing room filled with the fighter corps, young men and women who had volunteered to defend humanity. Admiral Wright entered, and the room fell silent. "You all did well today," Wright began, "but I need you to understand something. What happened at Mars wasn't a victory. It was a lesson. We didn't fight the Dravon today. We demonstrated capabilities. There's a difference." "Sir, I don't understand," Sophie said. "We won." Wright pulled up a holographic display showing coalition news feeds. Every species in the galaxy was talking about the battle, analyzing it, fearing it. "We won the battle, Lieutenant, but wars aren't won by firepower alone. The Dravon attacked us because they thought we were weak. We've now proved we're strong. The question is, what message does that send?" "That nobody should mess with humanity," someone suggested. "Or that humanity is too dangerous to exist," Wright countered. "Every species in the coalition is now watching us, wondering if we're a threat to them. The Dravon were bullies, yes, but they were predictable bullies. Now the galaxy faces an unknown, a species that hid its true nature for 40 years and can apparently destroy anyone who challenges it." The room went quiet as pilots processed this. "We didn't start this war," Danny argued. "They did." "True," Wright agreed. "But we're going to finish it, and how we do that matters. Today we showed overwhelming force. Tomorrow we need to show something else: restraint, mercy, and the kind of leadership the galaxy can trust." On Coalition Prime, the council chamber had erupted into chaos. Representatives from dozens of species demanded answers, protection, or called for immediate action against humanity. Ambassador Rachel Foster stood at the center of it all, letting the storm rage around her. Eventually, First Speaker Talrin restored order. "Ambassador Foster, your species has demonstrated military power far beyond what the Coalition believed possible. You've defeated the Dravon Grand Armada, the most powerful military force in known space. What are humanity's intentions?" Rachel took a breath, choosing her words carefully. "First Speaker, members of the Council, Earth's intentions haven't changed. We want peace, trade, and cooperation. What's changed is that everyone now knows we have the ability to defend ourselves and our allies." "Allies?" a representative asked nervously. "Does humanity seek to build alliances against other coalition members?" "No," Rachel said firmly. "We seek to build alliances with coalition members. The Dravon attacked us because they believed might made right. We've proved them wrong. But we're not interested in becoming the new regional power through intimidation. We're interested in showing that strength can serve peace." "Pretty words," a Dravon representative spat, "while our Grand Armada sits in your prison ships." Rachel turned to face him. "Your crews are being treated according to coalition protocols. They have food, medical care, and communication access. Your Supreme Commander will be tried for war crimes related to the Titan Station attack, specifically the targeting of civilians. The rest of your warriors will be repatriated once a formal peace treaty is signed." "You dictate terms to us," the Dravon said angrily. "No," Rachel replied. "I'm offering terms. You can accept them, negotiate better ones, or reject them entirely. That's how peace works. It's not surrender, it's agreement between equals." Dr. Alan Park watched from the visitors' gallery, impressed by Rachel's composure. Later, In a private meeting, she looked less composed. "They're terrified," Rachel said, pouring herself water with shaking hands. "Every species in the council. They're looking at us like we're monsters." "Some of them are looking at us like protectors," Alan corrected. "The smaller species, the ones who couldn't defend themselves against the Dravon, they're relieved. They're thinking maybe the galaxy just got safer." "And the others?" "They're doing what any intelligent species does when they encounter something unexpected. They're reassessing, recalculating, trying to figure out if we're friends or threats." Rachel laughed bitterly. "We tried for 40 years to be friends. It didn't work." "It did work," Alan insisted. "We built relationships, established trust, showed the galaxy that humans could be reasonable. Without that foundation, what happened at Mars would have been seen as pure aggression. Instead, it's being seen as justified defense. Context matters." Admiral Wright's final transmission to the Dravon, broadcasted on all channels, became famous across the galaxy within hours. "Supreme Commander Vornath, your Grand Armada is defeated but not destroyed. Your warriors live, their honor intact despite their loss. I want you to take a message back to your people. Humanity doesn't want war. We never did, but we will never be victims. We gave the galaxy 40 years of friendship and cooperation. You chose to see that as weakness. Now you know better. The question is, will you learn from this, or will you force us to teach you again?" The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the answer. 3 months passed. The galaxy changed in ways both visible and subtle. Dravon Empire territory fractured as client species sensed weakness and declared independence. Trade routes shifted as merchants sought human protection. Coalition membership applications tripled as smaller civilizations looked for allies who could guarantee their security. On Earth, parades celebrated the fleet's return. Heroes were made of ordinary people who had done extraordinary things. Lieutenant Sophie Grant found herself uncomfortable with the attention, more interested in returning to training than giving speeches about courage and duty. Admiral Wright retired from active command, citing exhaustion and the need for fresh perspectives. His final act was recommending Commander Patricia Hall for promotion to Fleet Admiral. She accepted, knowing the weight that came with the rank. Ambassador Rachel Foster returned to Coalition Prime for what everyone knew would be her last major address to the Council. The chamber was packed, every species represented, many sending their highest officials rather than standard diplomats. First Speaker Talrin called the session to order. "Ambassador Foster, the Council recognizes you." Rachel stood, looking older than her years. "Members of the Council, 3 months ago the galaxy watched humanity fight its first major war since joining the Coalition. We've heard accusations, praise, fear, and admiration. Today, I want to speak not as a diplomat, but as a human trying to explain my species to those who still don't understand us." She pulled up a holographic image of Earth from space, the blue marble that had birthed humanity. "We come from a world that tried to kill us at every opportunity. We survived not through individual strength, but through cooperation. Early humans formed tribes, tribes formed communities, communities formed civilizations. We learned that working together was the only way to survive." The image shifted to show human history, a rapid sequence of images spanning millennia. "But we also fought, constantly, brutally. We developed agriculture and immediately fought over farmland. We built cities and fought over resources. We created art, music, philosophy, and religion, and then fought over interpretations of all of them. We are, simultaneously, the most cooperative and most competitive species we've ever encountered." "This contradiction defines humanity," Rachel continued. "We want peace, genuinely and deeply, but we're very, very good at war. The Dravon made the mistake of thinking these were mutually exclusive. They believed a species that wanted peace must be weak at war. They learned otherwise." She paused, letting her words sink in. "The Dravon Empire is currently in political collapse. Their client species are seeking independence. Their military is scattered. Some of you have asked whether humanity will step in, will become the new regional power. The answer is no. Surprised murmurs filled the chamber. We didn't defeat the Dravan to replace them, Rachel explained. We defeated them because they attacked us. Now that the threat is eliminated, we return to what we wanted all along: peaceful coexistence and mutual prosperity. We're not interested in tribute, vassals, or subject worlds. We're interested in trading partners and allies who choose that relationship freely. A representative from a former Dravan client world stood. Ambassador, my species suffered under Dravan rule for 2 centuries. If humanity offers protection, would you provide it? If you formally request it and if the coalition approves the security arrangement, then yes, Rachel answered. But understand what that means. We would defend you from external threats, but we would not govern you. Your independence would remain yours. We're offering partnership, not ownership. Dr. Alan Park delivered his own presentation later that day, this time to a much more receptive audience. 3 months ago, I told you humanity evolved warfare as a survival mechanism. Today, I want to explain why that makes us uniquely qualified to promote peace. He pulled up data showing human history. Every major human civilization eventually realized that constant warfare was unsustainable. We developed concepts like proportional response, rules of engagement, prisoner treatment, and civilian protection, not because we're soft, but because we understood that unlimited warfare destroys everyone. We learned to limit conflict because we'd seen what happened when we didn't. The Dravan never learned those lessons, Alan continued. They conquered through overwhelming force and maintained control through fear. It worked until they encountered a species that matched their force and didn't fear them. Humanity has spent thousands of years learning to fight smart rather than just fight hard. A young Dravan representative, part of the new civilian government replacing the old military regime, asked, "How do we rebuild? The Dravan military defined our culture for centuries. Without it, who are we?" Alan smiled gently. "You're whoever you choose to be. Humanity went through this same evolution. We had warrior cultures, martial traditions, military values. We still have them, actually. But we learned to channel that energy into protection rather than conquest. The Dravan can do the same." Later, in a private garden on Coalition Prime, Rachel and Admiral Wright met for what they both knew was goodbye. Wright was returning to Earth, taking a teaching position at the Naval Academy. Rachel was staying, continuing her diplomatic work. "Did we do the right thing?" Wright asked, "showing them what we really are?" Rachel watched alien children playing in the garden, their games universal despite their different biologies. "The Dravan forced our hand, but maybe it needed to happen. Maybe the galaxy needed to see that peaceful species can also be powerful species. That cooperation doesn't mean weakness. And if they fear us now, then we prove them wrong," Rachel said simply. "Every day, every interaction, every treaty and trade agreement, we show them that humans keep their word, honor their commitments, and use their strength to protect rather than dominate." Wright nodded slowly. "It's going to take time. 40 years to build trust, 40 minutes to destroy it, 40 years to rebuild it," Rachel quoted. "We've got time." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sunset paint the alien sky in colors Earth had never known. Somewhere in the galaxy, species were adjusting to a new reality. Humanity was no longer the friendly merchants playing at diplomacy. They were a major power, one that had chosen peace not from weakness but from wisdom. The galaxy would remember the day humans stopped being polite and started being honest. But more importantly, it would remember what humans chose to do next.